You've asked for it and I've listened, because I know not everyone likes over-ear headphones and not everyone likes wires and such, but what everyone likes is noise cancelling and also Bluetooth. So today I have kind of that, because the Shure BT1 are not noise cancelling but noise isolating, which is quite a different thing. Just recently a viewer asked me, just about these actually, if noise cancelling is comparable to noise isolating. And I have to say they do kind of the same, but in a completely different way. More into that a little bit in length later. Now let's check these. So these are the BT1 SE112. They cost $99 or euros. And these are the SE215 for 140, so a little bit more of a high-end model. And both though come with this carrying case that also can be clipped somewhere. Now the 112 come with 3 sizes of these tips, along with this clip mechanism where you can plug it to your shirt at some point, and they also have this cable retention piece where you can make the cable a little bit shorter behind your neck or in front, depending on what you want. Now the 215 have a little bit of a difference, because they also come with these comply tips in 3 different sizes as well, so you get 6 tips in general. Now what they both also have in common is, as you can see, the remote control that has all controls. That definitely works out nice. What I like is that the play, also the power on, if you press it longer, sticks out. So you can easily feel it even throughout gloves. I had no problem with that. Here beneath that there is the micro USB to charge them. And this, I guess, would be the battery where you can also hook up the clip. Now, as you can see, this is a pretty standard headphone, but it doesn't work just normally by plugging it into it. You have to go over around your ear. I will show that a little bit later. Now the 215 work a little bit different. Also over the ear, but as you can see, they have this flexible piece of this string, but this is flexible and you have to adjust it to your ear to make it fit right. And once you've done that, this is actually where it shows, because let's actually do this. So the 112, I usually have them around my neck. You could also use it in front. Then you put them over your ear, push it in, and then you just have to get a little bit used to it, because once you have them around, they actually sit very well, and they didn't fall out of my ears. But since they don't really have anything that holds them properly, like the 215, which have this kind of this flexible thing, they just don't have this security. But once they are in, they are very secure, because I have to say that usually I have issues with those tips sticking into my ear. Maybe it's either the tips being better or just the fact that they are over ear, because you could just easily put them like this in your ear. What I tried, but this way they actually fall out of my ear. So I guess the method of putting them over or around your ear and putting it then in actually works a lot better. And then I have to say that the whole mechanism works like that. The remote is in an easy to locate position, so no problems here at all. Now the 215 are a little bit more tricky, because you have to fiddle around with it until you actually figure out how they work and how you get them into your ears. Of course, the 215 have also the benefit that, or the advantage, you can take off the cable, which is quite handy. And then this works like this. Also, you just put the one piece in, and then you move the other thing around. And once it is in, you just have to kind of mold it around your ears. And then you have to just press. I hope you can see that. And then I have to say, as you can see here, these look very subtle in your ears. And the good thing is just about this flexible thing that gives you a little bit of some relief, and therefore you don't really actually feel the ear cups or the in-ear a little bit that much. Because what I tried in one day actually without the cable, just as kind of earplugs to use them at work, because it's very loud. After all, they are noise isolating, and they are kind of similar like this, but they just work way better, because I don't know if you know these, but usually you have to press them, push them, and then wait for them to expand, and then they have a seal. But this, you just don't have to wait for it. You push them in, and you have even a better seal. I think they look very subtle, and due to this, they sit very right. I will get into the comfort in just a second. Now the 112, they kind of work the same, and as you can see, also quite subtle. Now, about the comfort, I have to say the 112, I had them for the whole day in, for a couple of times actually, and I have to say comfort is good. Especially, that's for me very important, they stuck in my ear all the time, didn't fall out, and I could just use them. The problem is just you have to get a little bit used to the mechanism, because I can't just always easily put them around my ear, stick them in, so the cable actually is stuck behind my ear, if you get what I mean. So that needs a little bit of time getting used to. Now the 250 needs a little bit more time even getting the kind of mechanism, because since this is rotatable, you just have to usually always go for putting them right in and then push the other pin around. And then they sit right. Now about the comfort. The 112 I had in for the whole day, they never really got like sore. After like 6 hours they were sore, but only when you touch them. If you have them only in your ear, it was fine for hours. They are very comfortable. And the 215, actually I have to say, are noticeably more comfortable just because of the flexible part that gives you a little bit of a relief, and therefore you don't feel the plug so much in. Because on the 112, and I have small ears, so I had to use the smallest tips. I had them in all the time, and I always kind of felt them, similar to what I have with these here. I always, especially my left ear, there's something weird with my canal, and that's why I always felt them. Now the 215, after like already like 2 hours, if I touch my ear, it feels a little bit sore, but only if I touch it. As long as I don't touch it, and if I have them sitting in properly with the flexible part being attached properly and just everything being right with, and that is super handy. I have to get into that, the clip, because I use the clip at the back of my shirt. And this is something that I have not ever experienced yet, because I didn't really review that many in-ears. I can move at my workplace all the time, and pretty heavily. I have to look right, down, up and down, all the way. The cable never got stuck into one direction. I could just move absolutely freely, absolutely naturally, without even noticing this cable. And so many times I've actually used this for the whole day at work, where it is very loud, and it didn't bother me at all. It was better than those tips that you just have in your ears, and I never felt really distracted. The good thing was, though, I had the isolation. So those, if you just have them in your ears right, comfortable, cable on neither one gets stuck, but the problem is that the 112 just could get a little bit tangled up because they don't have this relieving part. That is so much better on the 215, which is a big part, because those, they just sit in your ears. You never notice the cables, which is something that I always had an issue with other ones. So big bonus to that. Now let's talk about the isolating and canceling part. Now let's get quickly into noise canceling, just so we cover that. How does noise canceling work? Usually you have a microphone, or some more on your earphone, and then they kind of record the surrounding and then give you an anti-sound, which kind of cancels out the noise. And this is a method that works a little bit delayed, and it works on some frequencies, not on all. Because what it usually does is it gets the hum of airplanes, trains and such out of the way. It usually keeps, though, the higher tones still active, especially things like people talking. Because it's something so fast with different frequencies, that's just something a proper, even not even the best ones, can really fill out. So I hear people so many times, they say the noise cancelling is very good for trains, machines and all that, but I can still hear people talking. I think just noise cancelling isn't made for that, because it's just not fast enough, and it can't just quite properly cancel out those frequencies. But it feels a little bit more natural, because the thing on noise isolating is it just drops down the noise floor extremely, because both they tell you, or at least the paper says, 37 decibels. Of course, decibels is always something a little bit hard to actually grasp, but once you have them in, they make you feel a little bit claustrophobic at times. So you have to get used to that. That's especially something that I had a little bit of some issues at first using earplugs, the very ceiling ones, because you feel so isolated from the outside world. And dialogues you hear definitely way less than with a noise cancelling one, because everything is down. All frequencies. The lower ones like machines and all that are gone as well. You won't hear them either. But the thing is, just first of all, it's noise isolating, so it doesn't need any extra battery or any extra work. You don't need to put anything extra into the ear, in ears or earphones, wherever you use it. But it seals much better, I have to say. Also, the benefit from a better seal is that you don't have to listen to music that loud. So you can just have music playing very, very quiet, and you already hear nothing. Now that's something you have to get used to, because especially at work, I need to still hear people, which I do. I just hear them very quiet and muffled, but I can hear them, which is good. But usually you're sealed off very nice, and you just have to get used to that feeling of being a little bit more alone and just tucked away. But I think actually noise isolating for everyone who wants something really quiet is the better way, but you also have to just live with the feeling of everything being cancelled out. Because on the, like I said, noise cancelling ones, you still hear highs a little bit more. You don't feel quite as off. It feels a little bit more natural to me, because I would say noise cancelling is like this. You are in a crowded room, and the room is just away. I mean, everything in it, all machinery and usually the big crowd noises are gone. Now on the noise isolating principle, it's just that everything is just super quiet, like you would have a helmet on. That's maybe not for everyone. I got used to that after a few days and I liked it. So it really depends on what you prefer. Now let's talk about the sound after pretty much exactly 10 minutes. I have to say they are both quite similar, but what they both do on intention, because that's what they even say on the box, they bass. Let's just say it like this, they extend the bass. Now I would say the 112, they have a little bit more bass, but it doesn't quite bleed that much into the mids like the what they call extended bass on the 215, because they don't really extend towards the lower end, which is what I would understand from extended bass. They extend it all the way into the mids, which is a little bit weird. Now overall soundstage is quite small, there are closed ones, and due to the isolating factor, the soundstage definitely does not feel big, but it feels very coherent. It works out for the smaller on in-ears, and that's what you usually get anyways. But overall sound signature, a lot of bass on the 112. Mids are actually not that heavily influenced by the bass. It still bleeds into the lower mids, but not that much. But they didn't really push the highs a lot. And that is why they feel a little bit more, not really muffled, but you are missing highs, and that just doesn't feel quite as balanced. Now the 215, they have similar amount of bass like the 112, but it bleeds a little bit more into the mids, but to kind of counterbalance that, they push the highs a little bit more. And I would say bass is very nice on both. Now, of course, the extended bass, you have to get rid of that if you don't like it. If you want something neutral and you want these, you would have to at least kind of push down like 2 or 3 decibels throughout the whole entire spectrum of the bass on the 112, on the 215, even more so a little bit in the mids. But you don't need to push the highs. What I would need to do on the 112 is push also the highs. So you would have to kind of do this on the 112 and about this with the mids on the 215. I hope this comes out in the right direction on the video, because it's vice versa for me, but you get it, bass and mids on the 215. But the qualities of the bass, I have to say, is really nice, because the bass, it extends quite fairly well also down below, not just into the mids, but it is a very punchy, it is definitely a warm and dark sound signature in general, because what they both have, especially the 112, due to having not that many highs, just don't feel bright at all. They both feel a little bit, oh, let's say noticeably dark, a little bit on the warmer bass side. Now the mids on the 112 are good, also vocals you hear them, but they just miss the brilliance and dynamic due to having a lack of highs. But the good thing is, what both can do, they have very good drivers, and the signature that they wanted to achieve, they did. I'm pretty sure of that, because that's kind of the signature that pretty much every Bluetooth headphone does, but with a big difference. Whenever I review Bluetooth headset, I say they have too much bass, not enough highs, and whatever I try to tweak, I can't get the sound right. Now these would have the potential without any issues to get more flat, and I've tried it with, for example, my MP3 player, 10 bands, I can easily adjust it, just lower the mids or the bass and such, and this can only be achieved with a good driver or a high quality in-ear, because if you do this and if you want something more neutral, you can get that. On some other ones you can lower the mid or the bass, push the highs, but it's just not the same, because then things just get out of control. And you definitely have to keep in mind what you do. You have to do it right, otherwise it feels a little bit out of balance, because especially the 112, if you do this, mids just feel a little bit off. So let's just say it like this, for everyone who wants Bluetooth and who wants the kind of mainstream V-shape, a good sound, you will get that on both, because it is a pleasurable thing, and especially if they hear it for a little bit longer. Of course, if I would switch from anything that is very neutral to these, it just feels completely off. But if you have them in your ear for half an hour, and your ears adjust and your hearing adjust, it's definitely nice, because the bass is nice and punchy. It is actually in some way quite dark, okay, yes, but dry, very precise, nice. The 112 maybe not quite as much. The mids are okay, vocals still actually shine. And on the 215, I have to just say I like that they push the highs, because then things feel just nicer, balanced to me. And not to drag this too much further, that I usually already did, let's get into if I can recommend them or not. Now, I think I can, but due to the lack of alternatives that I just haven't tried it, I'm not quite so sure how they compare. Because for $99 here, you get a nice in-ear that has isolation a lot more than other ones. So that's kind of the big selling point with the big sound. And the battery life actually is rated at 8 hours. I got about 6 hours with quite high volume. And this is actually also something that I wanted to say. These play very loud because I never went really above 75%. And I was at my maximum and I hear very loud. So these are like at least 35% louder than most over-ear noise cancelling headphones that I've tried. So volume should not be an issue. You can blow out your ears if you want to, but due to being nice isolating, you don't need to. But $99 sounds fine for me. The 112 I have a little bit more issues because of the lack of highs. You can push them, sure, but it's not the same. But even though the 215 are 40 euros more, I can actually recommend them because I like the isolation. They fit very nice for a long period of time, because if you have them in, you just after a while don't even, I'm not even gonna try it, you don't really feel them. They're very comfortable, and I don't know how many times I actually just had them in my ears without even playing music because just of the nice isolation and so on. The sound feels more balanced, and if you want a nice V-shape, a nice fun sounded headphone, this is definitely it, because electronic music is what they both shine absolutely in. Where they fall a little bit, of course, back behind is if you want some ballads, some vocals, music heavily vocal influence, especially women with have very high tonal frequencies and so on. It feels a little bit less out. So it's not really a very dynamic, a very bright, pleasurable experience for audiophiles. But for someone who is just fun, especially on the 215 with a little bit more highs, you will get that, and I like them. I just can't say if 140 is an absolute fair price towards the competition because I don't know that, but it looks reasonable for the quality that you get with the comfort, with the detachable cable and all that. So that's where I'm gonna leave it. Let me know in the comments what actually you prefer in terms of in-ears. Do you like noise isolating or not at all? Do you want something that doesn't quite isolate you so much? Because that is definitely not for everyone. So let me know in the comments. Okay, until next time.